Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
That's how you fucking start a podcast. Let's go. What are you talking about?
Hurley, get this thing recorded.
We're already going.
Yeah. Remember we played those games in the snow and these things were frozen? It's terrible. It's terrible when it's warm.
Yeah, right?
We got Derek Price here with us. Derek's tight end from 94 and 95 season and one of our roommates. Derek's great to see you. Former NFL tight end as well with the Lions. You can see in the background, a couple jerseys up. So welcome on the show. You're our first official guest. So
let's go, man. Let's keep it in-house. It's roommates. We got stories. We go back. Like, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super stoked to have this. And it's just good to see you guys again, man.
Yeah, no kidding. It's too long.
Yeah, great to see you, man.
How did you get started in football? Starts at the beginning.
All right, man. I'm going to give you the long version. So
that's what we're here for.
So football for me was more of a means to an end than it was like an initial passion. So let me run that statement backwards. So I lost my father when we were very young. I was 7 years old, and I became the oldest boy in the house, which I think both of you guys came down. Like, Nick, you've been at my house. Brian, did you come to my house for spring break one year?
Yep.
Yeah, man. So you guys came to Tempe and saw that. So I grew up in that house. Mom was a school teacher. And, I was playing sports, whatever. I didn't play football. I remember, like, my freshman year in high school, I was under 110 pounds, so they wouldn't let me play football. So they're like, you don't make weight. I couldn't make the weight to get on the team. So my first varsity letter was in the sport of diving. So if you can imagine, I was under 110 pounds, wearing a Speedo, doing flips on a diving board was how I started my athletic high school career. And anyway, high school goes on. I move into football like basically my junior year. I didn't really play football before my junior year in high school. I was a track, soccer, baseball guy, and diving, of course. And it turned out that like I was decent at football, decent with like at least decent. Because I was coordinated, and I think it was a lot from like soccer and baseball, to be honest with you. Like I think that my hand-eye and everything came together from those sports. But football seemed cool because like people showed up at football games and nobody comes to a track meet in high school.
Or soccer.
Nobody cares if you're on the soccer team. They care if you're on the football team, whatever. So football attracted me mostly from when I wanted to lift weights and I wanted like that lifestyle and blah, blah, blah. So my junior year, I started playing. I don't even know what the game really is. And by my senior year, I grew a little bit. I was 6'3", some of those intangibles, and I was fast. I was running, really good in track. And come college time, I did the conversation like, hey, Mom, so like, I want to go to college. Like, how do you pay for this? And she's like, do you want heat this winter or a Christmas present? And I was like, that's some bullshit. Like, I didn't know we're that kind of broke, but we're broke. So she's like, you got to figure it out. So, which is funny because that started my whole mentorship of like seeking other people to coach me on and having mentors. And my neighbor was coaching me in track at the time. And when I say coaching, I was doing like high school track, but then I'd go home and then he'd come get me. And then I'd run 2 miles back to the school, do another track workout with him. And then I'd run home as my cool down. And the funny thing is like, I thought that was normal, right? I thought that's, whatever. But looking back, people are like, that's crazy. And there's a funny commonality. People that achieve high levels of success are either just absolutely God touched in sport, like, and you guys know who I'm talking about, like God's just like, you are better than everybody around you. Or they just outwork everybody by doing crazy things. And anyway, I was able to get from high school to junior college. So I went to junior college right out of high school. And I think the scholarship was like, $100 worth of book credits and like, I don't know, $50 off your meal voucher or something, whatever junior college scholarship was. But we had a really good team, and it happened to be a really, really good junior college team. We were like national champion level team, top 5. And after the first year, I had played a little bit, but not much, just enough to burn a redshirt year, and got a scholarship to go to New Mexico Highlands, not New Mexico University. And at New Mexico Highlands, I went home and did the whole thing where I was like, Mom, I got a scholarship. They offered me a 4-year school. I'm gonna get my degree. Football is a means to an end. I didn't have money to pay for school. This was going to get me, this was going to get my degree, which was my mom's a school teacher. And so that was a big deal for her, big deal for me. And then a new coach comes in the summer into the junior college and goes, hey man, if you stay here and do what I tell you to do and work a little harder, I think that there's bigger opportunity for you. So that was like my first real, like, hey, what do I do with this, right? Like, I mean, imagine yourself, like I went to play football to get a scholarship to get a 4-year degree, and I have that lined up. And now I'm going to turn that down to go back to a junior college to say, I think I can get a better opportunity, right? So a lot of prayer, a lot of thought, a lot of like pissed off mom saying like, what if you hurt your knee? You know, like, what if, right? Anyway, long story short, I go back. And by the third game of the season, I already had, you know, like over 300-400 yards receiving, 4 or 5 touchdowns. And Carl Hargrave shows up at Carl Hargrave was a tight end coach for me and one of my life mentors for the T Corps at University of Iowa. And he shows up at my junior college and he's like, I was in town and your name came up, so I'm stopping by to meet you. And I saw your stats and met you and whatever, and came by and met mom and whatever. And then after that, the season kept progressing that way. And I ended up getting all, you know, blue chip All-American and player of the conference and all that kind of stuff, which was great. And I had offers to go pretty much anywhere in the country, except the one place I originally wanted to go, which was Arizona State, which was literally 5 miles from my house. And so I kept holding out for Arizona State. Like it was to the point where, and I don't know how kids get recruited now, but like we were getting so much mail, and you guys probably went through this too. Like we couldn't have the mail come to the house anymore because it was just too many recruiting letters from too many schools. It just was coming in like bricks. I would have University of Hawaii calling, the coaches would call me at like 10 o'clock at night, and I'd have Rutgers calling me at like 5 in the morning, and like it just got out of control. So anyway, season ends, and
you're a tight end. You're playing tight end.
I was playing receiver. I was not
okay.
a tight end. So that's
okay.
It's an interesting recruiting path to when I got to Iowa. So Hargrave.
Did you run track? Did you run track as well at college, or just in high school?
I did not. Like I could have, like my times would have been competitive in college, but I was a 400 guy, and I don't know if you've run the 400, but there's nothing fun about it. It's like the most painful thing you can do. And I was like, dude, like this is really just constant pain. So I did not run track in college. But I was really good at crossfields because it was, you know, basically a 400. So you guys remember crossfields? So
yes, I remember you smoking crossfields and being like,
crossfields.
This guy's a
crossfield giant.
like 250. Yeah.
Yeah. If crossfields were like football stat, like, I'd be in the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, nobody cares. Yeah, so anyway, so I go to Iowa as my first recruiting trip, right? And Ross Verba was my sponsor or escort or whatever. And it was exactly like anybody watching this or listening to this podcast, like go watch the movie with Anthony Michael Hall, Johnny Be Good. Like if you guys remember that movie, like that was recruiting trips back then. Show up and it's like limos and it's stadiums and it's cheerleaders and it's dinners at IRP, Iowa River Power Company. I don't even know, does that place still exist?
No.
You guys
they just shut it down. They just shut it down.
Oh man, dude, remember getting steaks with all, I used to love to host because like it meant we got to eat a real steak. We didn't have NIL money, dude. Can you imagine like what life would be like with NIL money? It'd be crazy. So anyway, so I go out there on a recruiting trip, and Slutsker and Verba kept me up until like 4 in the morning ish. And I had to meet with Coach Fry at 6 in the morning, and I was going to the airport at 8 in the morning. And so they basically dropped me off in Coach Fry's office, having had no sleep. Like everything that you can imagine is what it is. And Coach Fry pulls me in his office and shuts the door. And for anybody that doesn't know, like if you've seen the TV show Coach, like all that stuff in the show, that's all Iowa stuff. That's the Florida Rosedales, all that stuff. It's all was in Coach Fry's office. And that's actually what they modeled the show off of. And it's fairly intimidating to be in his big power office by yourself. And he's on the other side of the desk and you're on the other side of the desk. And he's like, here's the deal. I have 2 tight ends coming in Thursday. I'm going to sign one of the three of you. If you say yes, I cancel those trips. If you say no, I'm probably going to sign one of those other guys before you have a chance to get back to me. I know you're leaving for the airport in like 5 minutes. What's your answer?
Wow.
And I was like, yes, yeah, 100%. I'm in. Boom.
That's a
Yeah,
power move.
yeah.
That's impressive.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I go with yes, and I'm super glad I did, right? Didn't have anybody else like really in my life that steered me around football. Like, hey, take your trips, and that's a sales job, and the scholarship's going to be there. Like, when you don't know, you don't know. Like, I thought, like, if I leave this opportunity goes away, and I'll never get another one again. So I say yeah, and then I go home and come right back out for spring ball. It was all like in a real quick turn. So I got there like in spring of '93. And come out to spring ball and show up like cowboy hat and jeans and like a denim jacket with fur in it. And I was like, none of these people dress like anything like I dress here. Ronnie Abraham is like, what cow patty did you come from? I was like, thanks, Abe. So anyway, so yeah, man, move into Slater Hall, and second floor Slater Hall, like legendary. Dude, we could tell stories, but people will go to jail over those stories. And we do have some funny stories about Slater Hall. And that began my Iowa career. And then Iowa goes on, whatever. And I wasn't like Scott Slutzker was by far the better tight end. I backed him up like my whole career, and rightfully so. If there was a pass play he was in, he was great tight end, great product, did great, and got drafted 3rd round. And so when it came to like pro day, like I didn't run for any of the pros on pro day. I didn't show up at pro days. I didn't do any of this. I just kind of was like, football's means to an end. I'm gonna get my degree. I was paying for it. I really enjoy like the locker room. I enjoy like the camaraderie. I enjoy the brotherhood. I like working out. Football's great, but it's gonna be over, and I'm gonna go, into my life. And I ultimately go home right after the Sun Bowl. You guys both on Sun Bowl, yeah? Like Sun Bowl '95, yeah. So we Sun Bowl it, and then I bounced back to Phoenix because I graduated, which was another funny story with Slutzker. How we made it to graduation that day is crazy. Yeah, I remember like my mom waking us up off the carpet in that house that we lived on. Like, she's like, "Don't you graduate today?" And I was like, "Thanks for waking me up." So, so anyway, so we go back home, and I'm back in Tempe, and I'm like actually like looking for jobs and whatever. And that's when Chuck Long called and was like, "Hey man, like listen, I really think you need to come back and run for some of these teams, and something may happen, something may not happen, but you'll regret not taking the opportunity to at least try it. But just do it. Just trust me on this. Just do it." And like Chuck and I never had like a super tight relationship. I respect the heck out of him, and I think he's an amazing human being, but like I wasn't a quarterback. Like we weren't in each other's world and didn't have some weird off the field relationship. So quite honestly, like I credit him 100% with the fact that I even had an opportunity to get in the NFL, because it was not even on my radar until he physically called me on the phone. So if Chuck, if you're listening, like all the high five and credit to you. And so that's when you guys remember. So I came back. And we started working out, and like it was just part of golf, going to the quarry, going to RTs, and just lifting weights and just running around, get ready for pro days and stuff like that. And then the draft comes. Scott gets picked up on the first day of the 3rd round. I signed with Detroit Lions on the first day. And I remember getting I think I might got like a $10,000 bonus or something like that, signing bonus. And I can't remember like if it was you two guys and Chris Knipper and maybe Granquist. We all went to like what was that like burger basket place like on the Ped Mall, like right across the street from like Sports Column. You remember that?
Yeah, downstairs, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah, for sure.
Just a cheap like $3 burger baskets or something like that. And I remember like going there and like paying for everybody's meal, and I'm like, because I'm a baller now. I was used to. Dude, when we were on scholarship, for those of you guys don't know, we were getting checks for like $360 a month, and they're like, "Go live off campus, eat, and pay your bills on this."
Yep.
And we're like, and we all live in Section 8 housing because we actually qualify for that. And so So I did that, and then I went on to Detroit, and all the stars aligned, and the tight ends in front of me got hurt, and I had some good plays in the preseason that kept me on the roster. And as all of us on this call know, like, you're either a God-touched, like, first, second, or third round human being, or you're one of 1,000 people that can do the same job, and you just happen to be in the right place at the right time and got lucky. And there's no shortage of that level of talent.
Yeah.
There's so many other guys that could have done the same job I did. I just happened to be right place, right time, in front of the right coach when they made that decision. And Detroit goes off. I actually played in just about every game. Started against Green Bay, was on every special teams, played as a tight end in over half the games, had stats, and break my neck with 4 games left to go in the season, running down on kickoff against Chicago. And my body goes one way, my head goes the other way. And I couldn't feel my shoulder. And so I don't say anything. And there's whole like stories behind that of like, back then, like, and I don't know what the NFL is today, maybe Nick, but it was like you got 16 checks per season because there's 16 weeks in the season. And if you got cut at week 2, then you got 2 weeks worth of checks. That was your salary. There was no, like, unless you're like a first rounder or something, there's no like guaranteed money. And so I was like, dude, I'm barely hanging on to this team. I felt like I was like the lowest ranking member. Like every time, like, oh, our kicker sprained his ankle. I was like, I'll get cut today. I know it, because they're going to bring in another kicker and they're going to be like, cut the lamest tight end we have. And it's a vicious world. So I get through the season. I played the last 4 games hurt, started my last game against San Francisco at Candlestick, and I was playing like a ridiculous fullback position and tight end. Remember, I was a receiver. So if we run back to Iowa, I can tell you how Hargrave brought me in and told me, you are going to be a receiver. We're going to run that offense that you see that Houston is running. If you remember that, like,
Yeah.
we're this thing called run and gun, because that's what I was running in junior college. We did the run and gun, and you're a slot. It's kind of how the NFL uses the tight end today. We're going to flex you out. We're going to get mismatches. We're going to send you deep. We're going to do all this cool stuff. And that's how I played junior.
Not quite.
And I got to Iowa. And if you remember, Hargrave, after my first year, took a job with Denny Green at Minnesota Vikings. And then we got a different tight end coach that was like offensive line. And Hayden Fry's like, yeah, I don't know how to do that kind of offense anymore. And since he's gone, you need to put on about 50 pounds, learn how to block. And I was like, but I don't know how to block. Like, that's like, I like to run around and catch passes, and you want me to block people. Like, I don't block people. And he's like, and to make matters worse, I want you to stand up with your hands on your hips while somebody else is in a 9-tech with their ears pinned back, and you have to get your pad level lower than theirs. You're like, I don't even know how that works. I remember actually at the Illinois game, was it Simeon Rice? Yeah, Simeon Rice was on the outside. And like, he was like a foot off the ground at like 280 pounds of just awesome athlete. And I was like, how do you want me to block him? Like, I'm standing up in the most unathletic position. If anyone remembers like old, like Nick, you played tight end. You remember that? Like, stand like this.
Yeah.
Stand in the most unathletic position possible. And I'm going to let world-class athletes smash me in the face as I try and get into an athletic position. Bizarro. So anyway, Detroit happens, which is a story unto itself. And I come back, I get a new contract, and things are looking really good. But I show up, and they realize I have a broken neck, and my arm had shrunk down to like 12 inches around, because all the nerves were crushed. And they send me for surgery. They put plates and screws in here, and that was the end of that. And then I started my other life. That's a long version of my football.
That's a short version, actually. So you were playing how many games with a broken neck?
I played the last 4, and I didn't know it was a neck, so in fairness, it was like a stinger, right? So if everybody played football, you understand a stinger. But it was a stinger that like just wouldn't go away. And like if I turned my head, it was like getting electrocuted. If I sneezed, it was like getting electrocuted. Like if I breathed too deep, it would like hit me like surprisingly like. And what had happened was the discs in my neck exploded and squirted out and were living amongst the nerve roots. So anytime it was like that game operation where if anything touches, it was doing that. And dude, funny story was, it was the surgeon they sent me to get my neck fixed from Detroit out at the Carl Hargrave Clinic in Los Angeles. I'm in the waiting room. I knew he was a good surgeon. I'm in the waiting room with Shaquille O'Neal and Lottie Divac, which if you didn't know this, there's VIP level hospital rooms that you guys don't know about. It's like being on Seinfeld when Costanza finds the supermodel party. Like they took me to a floor that had like open catered sushi and desserts. And I was like, where am I? And Shaquille O'Neal's hanging out. I was like, what is going on here? And then now that I don't play in the NFL, it's like that whole floor disappeared. They're like, what are you talking about? There's no secret floor here. But it was actually the surgeon that was like got me into chiropractic, which is another listening to somebody. He's like, hey man, if you went to a chiropractor, you probably wouldn't have these problems. Your neck wouldn't have busted and you'd be good. And I was like, what are those guys like witch doctors with chicken blood and crystals? Like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what that means. And he was like, that was a very naive statement. Walked out of the room. And I was like, I just offended the dude that's going to cut me open in like 2 days. And so when I got out of Detroit and they said, you can't play because of this, I was like, what do I do now? And I went into some chiropractor's office and I was like, what do you do? And then I went to 4 more years of chiropractic school. And that's how I started that profession. So yeah, man, there's the juxt of it.
Got a question about, so who did you go to any other visits then? Just Iowa? Was that your first visit because of Hargrave?
No, so I had Florida State, Penn State, Iowa, Stanford, and then I was gonna do UNLV because my buddy was like, dude, if you go to UNLV, they give you $300 to gamble with. And I was like, that's a legit reason to go on that trip. And I was like, dude, Air Force Academy called me and I was like, do I give it a signal in the morning? They were like, yeah. I was like, part pass. Like, just such dumb, immature decisions, right? Like Air Force Academy. You want me to wake up and have to march? Click.
Nope.
But UNLV, you're gonna give me $300 in tokens to go gamble? Like, send me on that trip. So no, man. Brian, I canceled. I came home and canceled all of them because I mean, I think it was different then, right? Like when you said you were gonna do something back then, like it actually held water. Now these kids are like, I committed here, 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 and here. And the coaches are like, I committed to this kid. It doesn't mean anything. Like, it's just different. So it's just a different era, man. But yeah, no, I canceled all my other trips. I played the what if game many times. Like, well, what if I went here? And I played more like a receiver position. But at the end of the day, like football took me as far as it was going to take me. And then, it actually took me further than it should. There's plenty of guys way better than me that didn't play in the NFL, and I had the opportunity to do it. So if I had to run it all back again, Hurley, I'd do the same thing. I'd make the same choices, go to the same school, because playing the sport is 10%. The community of brotherhood that you get when you play a sport at that level and the time you spend together is where the value is. And to everybody that you ever have on any podcast after this that played, if you ask them, I bet you if you took a poll, what do you miss the most? The game or the locker room? They're going to go, oh, the locker room for sure. I miss the brotherhood, the camaraderie. I miss like working out in the gym together. I miss, going to the rock quarry, I miss going to the lake. I miss, late night fishing. I miss those house parties. I miss after the game. I miss just that group of people all working towards the same stuff. Like the games were like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Fans cheering and stuff. That's cool. Whatever. But like literally for me, it's the camaraderie of the brotherhood of being able to like, Brian, I haven't talked to you in 20 years.
I know.
We're 5 seconds in. It's like, what's up, B? Like just because we have so much history that like you can't in regular life. Think about this. In regular life, Nick Gallery, who do you speak to that's not like your wife, your kid, or your immediate family, or your business partner that you're ever going to get the amount of hours you did with the 50 plus guys who you made relationships with at Iowa? Like,
yeah,
where's that
nobody,
happen?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's like, we haven't talked in 20 years, like you said, and it's like plug right back in, right? Same jokes, same banter. Like it's a really unbelievable bond that we have with those people, which is great.
Yeah. It is, man. Like so anyway, like so fast forwarding my career out post football, I become a doctor. I open clinics. I make a bunch of clinics. I do everything on the musculoskeletal, orthopedic surgery, pain, everything. And then go into coaching, and then go into consulting, and then became a CEO of 2 of the largest mental health and substance abuse hospitals in the country. It's a super weird path, I know, right? Like Nick is going like timeout. So Derek Price is running a substance abuse hospital. Yeah, dude. I know, right? Can't believe they hired me either. But but no, I did it, and I'm not in recovery, so I don't have that story. I don't drink. It just doesn't work for me. I did in college, but it doesn't after that. But what I learned was a lot of the guys that, so we did it. I ran a lot of heavy veteran programs, a lot of PTSD coming off the back of the war, off of Afghanistan and all that. Became very tight with a lot of guys in the SEAL teams. I ran a program called SEAL Fit for a long time. Was involved in that. But a lot of the guys, their PTSD doesn't come from like shooting bad guys in the face, because the guys, remember, only like 1% of the military is pulling triggers at best. And it's not everybody that's ever like, in the military. And it's not even everybody that goes downrange or over in country. Credit to everybody, right? Credit to everybody that ever chose to serve. Like, all the respect in the world to anybody that served at any level, regardless of station or position. But the people that I saw that I would come to my hospital for drug addiction, substance addiction, depression, anxiety, and PTSD, when I would speak to them, the PTSD wasn't shooting bad guys. And of course, they're sad they lost buddies, but it was almost like they lost their identity because they were 19 years old. They left high school. This is like 2001. They go to war. They're at war for like 20 years, running and gunning with the same elite units. They form bonds thicker than blood with their brothers because they're going through like we formed a bond by going through 2 days together and by going through camps together. And, even though kickers get like kicker jokes, like, did you guys really go through 2 days? Because I remember when you were chipping golf balls when I was running cross fields. So, and it's funny, but like we're allowed to make that joke, but if somebody outside of here make that joke, like we beat their ass, right? So, so like those guys and they don't have that brotherhood when they get out of the military, and they get lost, and they're like, I don't know what to do, and there's like that pain to it. And I think that like high level sports and leaving an elite military unit is the same, because you inherently create a family. You create a family within your own family, right? So, I mean, I spent more time with you guys than I did like with my family when I was at Iowa. Like when you're in NFL, like, yeah, you spend time with your wife and kids, but you're with these guys 8 hours a day on the road, weekend, off season. It's an all the time weight room sessions, catching balls in the summer. Like, it's a nonstop all the time thing. So it's a hard one to give up. And that's probably what I miss. And I would venture to say, if you ran a poll of all the ex-players you have on here, like, what do you miss more, like the locker room or the stadium? You're probably going to say the locker room. Yeah. Although Slusker might say the stadium because he was a glory hound, but I'm only saying that he's probably going to watch this. Scott's like, you asshole. Love you, Scotty. So,
yeah, he's like, wait till I get on this show.
Yeah, right.
Like, wait till I get on there and my Hackensack, New Jersey comes out. I'll tell stories.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
What was your transition like to Iowa? Like, that had to be just a night-and-day difference, right? From like going from Arizona, like, sunshine and that, to like cornfields and snow, like all that stuff had to be crazy for you.
Yes. So I had never done snow. So when I first got to Iowa, I had actual snow boots, like with fur coming out, and I realized people don't actually wear those; they wear regular shoes. So that was first lesson. I realized that my Nissan 4-cylinder mini truck that worked in Tempe, Arizona, brilliantly doesn't work on ice or snow. So I spent literally the next 4 years just putting sandbags in the back of my truck, which I didn't know was a thing, so that my tires could get traction.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really the biggest thing, Nick, was that I was so far away from home. And remember, the world was still small there. We didn't have the internet. Like trip on that for a second. When we were at Iowa, we didn't have the internet. There wasn't the World Wide Web. Cell phones weren't a thing that any of us had, right? Some of us had beepers, and we're like, "Oh, dude, I got to pull over because I got a page. I got it's crazy." But so I drove out there in my little truck and got into Slater, and dude, it was culture shock. Like the tunnel that goes from Slater to the cafeteria. I was like, "Why is there a tunnel here? Is this for bombs?" They're like, "No, it's for snow." I'm like, "It snows that much?" Yeah. Like I remember thinking we could jump off the top of the Slater building. I was like, I think there's like 30 feet of snow down there. I'm pretty sure we could make this work. A lot of bad choices that we didn't do, thank goodness. But yeah, I mean, it was different. And then Nick, I actually remember you had a field party at your house, which was super exciting to be invited to find out that meant like you follow a combine and you pick up rocks. And that party sucks. I feel like I was deceived, you know?
Oh, we didn't do that, did we? We didn't put you to work, did we?
Bro, you had like 15 dudes there, and we just picked up rocks from your field and put them in the tractor bucket. And then Tim Dwight got a shotgun and turned around because he was going to shoot it and shot it right next to my head because he didn't know that his finger was in the trigger well. And I was like, Tim, you could have killed me. He's like, dude, that would have sucked. And then just went on with his Tim Dwight life. And I was like, yeah, Timmy. That would have really sucked if you shot me in the face with a shotgun. But I still do. I just saw that picture. Oh my gosh, where is it? Somebody just posted that. Like, do you remember that? There was like 20 guys at your house, Nick.
Yeah, like, for sure. My favorite story from that is they were like, a bunch of the guys were driving in and they were trying to find my house. And so they stopped in Winthrop, and there was this gentleman who kind of like would hang out in the corner a bit, and they asked him, we're like, do you know how to get to the gallery's house? And he's like, oh yeah, just down this way and take a left and over there. And they're like, oh wow, okay. Like, complete culture shock for him that way, which is funny.
Totally, right? Like, do you remember when directions were like that?
Yeah.
Like when you're like, where are you going? It's like, well, like go like 6 blocks and you'll see like a Circle K, and then take a left and you'll see like a broken truck, and then you're like a half a mile and turn right at the big tree. You're like, noted. Now it's like, if it doesn't go in Google Maps, I'm like, I don't know how to get there.
Yeah, I'll just go back.
You actually remembered where things were. You're like, oh yeah, I can get you. I can visually remember where that's at. Now you're just like, oh, put it on the phone. I have no clue.
Totally. Yeah, man. It was, but it was interesting, like Iowa, you feel like it is not a cultural melting pot because it's like, it's the Midwest, right? And it's all farmers and this, that. But the reality was like, there's a lot of people from Iowa on our team, but there was a lot of people from everywhere else in the country, and like whole different cultures and different worlds. Like Tavian, remember Tavian Banks? So I went back with Tavian I think he was from the Quad Cities, if that's right. I went back with him, and this was right before the Sun Bowl, and I had longer hair. This is when we were doing the let's not cut our hair thing. And his mom did those little like braids. This is when I still had hair. This is probably why I don't have hair anymore. And his mom twisted my hair into braids, and I spent the next 3 days like in agonizing pain, like feeling like my head was being pulled like this, and like going to the Sun Bowl, and they're like, you have to put on a helmet. And I was like, I don't want to put on a helmet. Like my whole head is on fire because this woman pulled the hair so tight that like I can't blink my eyes. I was like, but yeah, and then meeting like Diaco and Slutsker from New Jersey, and meeting like Romano, and there's just so many people from like just all over different places, and Iowa was great. It was a great melting pot, meeting a lot of people, like just good old school fun, like going fishing, like just doing dumb stuff, going pheasant hunting, like just, it was fun, man. I would do it all over again for sure. I'm glad they got rid of that jersey right there.
We talked about that in the last one. We were like, "Oh, those were the worst." Yeah, right.
Right. And I don't know, does my helmet have the? Yeah, they took off the ANF sticker our last year. Remember that?
Yeah.
We couldn't do the Needs Farmer sticker, which is crazy. But yeah.
So did you get in 93? So you had 1 year with did you do a red shirt?
Yeah. So I came in, and my original intent wasn't to redshirt, but that spring football, I broke my ankle. And so I had, which is probably good because I wouldn't have played because you had Greg, you had Russell, you had Mark Russell, you had Greg, you had Slutsker. And I was coming in to play this like flexed tight end receiver-esque type of a thing. Remember, I came to Iowa, I was 215 pounds. I didn't come in, it's like I left Iowa at 255 pounds, but which is another story unto itself, which is remember Ray Longo, our weight room coach?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And what was his assistant guy's name? That dude that was like super jacked. Do you guys remember his name?
Jim Poynton.
Yeah.
Poynton, I think is the name. Yeah.
Yeah, good pull. I remember when they'd come to Slater and like give me those Exceed boxes and sit there and be like, you need to drink this. I'm like, I don't want to drink this. And they're like, doesn't matter what you want. Like, it's like 500 calories of like sugar water juice. And then pound that, and then they're like, okay, now you need to drink your Metrics shake. Remember Metrics?
Yeah.
Like the world's most terrible tasting protein, unless they're sponsored and they're amazing, but they're like literally like the worst chalk of all time. Trying to drink Metrics shakes and then going to training table. And being like, all right, you have to have 2 potatoes and 2 steaks. And I'm like, I don't want 2 potatoes and 2 steaks, but
at the end of the day, here's a pound of creatine you got to eat too, right? For the morning workout at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
The worst, yeah.
Yeah. Here's coffee and creatine. This should totally make your body feel like $1 million. Like,
that's gonna make your tummy feel real nice.
Like I'm gonna shit myself and I can't shut my eyes like all the same time. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's dude. You
so
remember
they have a weight gain, like a goal for you to get to a certain weight?
Yeah, like don't be super skinny. Like
Okay.
I remember they were like,
yeah.
So you need to. I remember Hayden Fry was like, you need to learn how to get bigger and block. And I was like, I was thinking about moving to receiver, and he was like, no. Like the discussion was just like this. No. Like you don't look like Demo Owens. You don't look like Willie Guy. You don't look like our receivers. What you're 6'3", you don't play receiver. Like receivers are 5'5" and 5'6". And I was like, well, I'm trying to predict the future. This is what it's going to become. We should start in Iowa. Start now.
Kind of worked well in junior college. Yeah.
Yeah, worked great in junior college. They were ahead of the curve, man. And now the whole world's. But I miss my era for sure. I had to block people. It's terrible. Yeah, one of my funniest blocking stories in the NFL was I started against Green Bay, and we received a kickoff. So I'm on kickoff return, of course. So this is when they have wedges. So I get my face smashed in, which is like if kickoff should be illegal.
Yeah.
It's terrible. So then I'm standing in the huddle, and the very first play they call, of course, nervous, right? Playing against Green Bay Packers is a run to my side, like inside me. And I look over as I make this play call, and I'm like, well, that's Reggie White on my side of the field. And then you can see on film, I look up at the press box, and I'm like who would make this? Who thinks this is a good play?
You look at the coaches to be like, who did this to me?
Like in the huddle, it looks like this. And I'm like you can see who is like, I got an idea of how we start the game.
They'll never suspect it.
Super small ass tight end that's really not that good anyway. And let's have Barry Sanders run towards Reggie White and ask Derek to block him. That is a spectacular thing that nobody will expect. Yeah. Maybe that was the angle. But dude, check this out. This is the height of professionalism right here. And this is why Barry Sanders was the greatest of all time. Like before we left the huddle in that instant, and that happens so fast. You guys have been in huddles. All that transpires. And as we go, break, and I'm getting ready to walk at the line, Barry just grabs my jersey for a second. He goes, "May I just get in front of him? That's it. Just as cool as that." He goes, "Just get in front of him. That's it." And I was like,
wow. Okay.
So they snap the ball, and I close my eyes and just go like this, and I'm in front of him, and I'm just between Barry and this mountain of Reggie White, which is ridiculous. And he must not have thought the play was coming his way, because then Barry runs right off me and goes for like 15 yards or whatever. Came back and he goes, "That's all you got to do." I was like, "Yeah, man, it's super nice when my running back's Barry Sanders."
Yeah.
I look like I know how to block people. And I spent the rest of the game like paying for that. Dude, this is a funny story. You'll dig this. So I'm on a backside rollout, right? So I'm the backside tight end. Quarterback's going to roll left. I'm on the right side. And I have a release and then drag across. Or if that 9 tech jumps down into the 7, like if the outside guy jumps inside, because the tackle's going to run with it, I have to like cut block. And this is when we can still cut block. I don't even think you can cut block at the line anymore. And so I'm like, I'm going to go catch a touchdown. And then Reggie White jumps on the inside. I'm like, I'm going to cut Reggie White.
Oh, God.
Bro, this is what happened. I'm 270 pounds. I'm like, I'm gonna knock this fool down. Hike, I go boom into his leg. I hit his leg like a cartoon and slide down to the ground. And he stands there, and I'm looking. I remember like vividly. I'm on the ground looking at his shoe, and he picks me up. And he goes, "Hey, man, if you do that again, I'm going to start playing for real." And I looked at him. This is man on man in the NFL. And I go like this. I go, "Yeah, man, I'm sorry." I just walked back to the huddle. I was like, that man just stole my soul, dude.
Yeah.
There's just a difference. I was like the lucky bee there, and this is like maybe the greatest defensive tackle to ever play the game. And they had already made it to the playoffs. This was late in the season. We were ineligible for the playoffs. Shocker at Detroit, right? And he was like, "Hey, you might not want to do any of that kind of shit again, because I might have to go Reggie White on you." And I was like, "Noted, and I'm sorry. And I will just go back to the huddle, and I'll tell him not to do that again." It was crazy. It was fun times, man. It's fun when you can when you realize that, listen, man, people that watch it and they're like, "Dude, those guys on the field are crazy and giants." The guys on the field think that about the other guys on the field too.
Right.
There are guys, there's levels within levels. Like, hey, I was very, very average. Like, to the world, I was very, very elite. To the NFL, I was very, very average, right? And when you take very, very average and you match it up against very, very elite at the NFL level, to the world, everybody's elite. But at the NFL level, it's like a freshman high school football player going against like a college player. Like there's gaps of difference there that exist. And that was one of them. So yeah, man, it was humbling and fun. And most of my NFL stories are not about touchdowns or anything amazing or winning games. It's like, and then this is how I got my ass kicked. And then this time I got beat up this way. And then this time this guy knocked me out. And then this time. So very self-depreciating.
Was there anyone else that was in that level that you played against that you were just like, wow, this person is just that much?
Yeah, Derek Thomas. I got to play tight end against Kansas City during the Thanksgiving Day game. And they were like, "He's really fast." And they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm pretty fast too." And then he snapped the ball and ran past me, and I was like, I don't know what just happened. That was interesting. You remember John Randall?
Definitely.
The dude that would do eye black? Check this out. That dude does not do things because the camera is on. That dude is just crazy. He was looking at me just going, barking. This guy's not okay. Coach, get me out of this game. He's like, "Price, I'm gonna eat you. I'm gonna eat you. Oh, I'm gonna bite you. I'm gonna bite you. I'm gonna bite your family." And I'm like, "There's not even cameras on you, man. This is just me and you right now, and you're freaking me out." So it's a funny story about him, dude. So John Randall, his Minnesota Vikings, lines up outside, and I'm tight end, right side, pro set, and you have I forget his name, Chris something. I think he played at Alabama. Anyway, right tackle, rookie, 2 rookies. Again, why didn't Detroit win any games? Well, there's Derek Price playing tight end and some other dude that you'll never know their name. So that's why. And he's uncovered. So in this particular scenario, I've got this wide 9, which means that defensive tackle is outside of me, and he's got his ears pinned back, and it's John Randall. He's actually jumping around and barking. And he's talking about how he's going to eat me and my family and like, whatever. And so like they audible and it's a pass play. And so I look over and I'm like, I'm going to need help blocking this guy. And I look at my tackle who's uncovered and I make what's called an orange call. And orange basically means orange means like, you have no responsibility. I just gave you responsibility, and that's to come help me because this dude's got his ears pinned back and he's going to sack the quarterback. So come help me. On film, Chris does this. Here's the orange call, looks over at me, looks at John Randall, looks at me and goes, no. So much so. So of course, he doesn't come help me. John Randall puts his forehead into my forehead. I land on my back, and he tackles Scott Mitchell right after Scott threw the ball. And I was like, watch out. Like, listen, I would love to have told you I blocked him successfully, but that's not the case. Dude, we're watching film, and the coach is like, Price, you had John Randall on the outside, your tackle's uncovered. Why didn't you make an orange call? I go, I did. And the tackle goes, no, he didn't. I never heard it.
Oh, man.
Did they play the tape and they see his head go? They see me look at him. They see him look at me. They see him look at Randall and they see his head go, no. And like that guy got clowned and clowned and clowned and clowned by the whole crew, by everybody. But not as bad as I got clowned one time. I can't remember who we were playing, but like all game, it was like the defense was like, we don't know who you are, and so we're not going to cover you because they're not going to throw it to you anyway. I don't remember who it is, maybe the Saints or something. And so I'm for like the 50th time in the game running like a middle seam, and like the safeties are like blitzing, and I'm just running down the field by myself, like doing this. Hey, everybody, you can throw it to me. And I make the dumbass comment during full team film. Dude, they don't ever throw me the ball. Wayne Fawn's head coach stops the camera. And that's where I knew I had made a mistake. He goes, who said that? And I was like,
Oops.
It's Price. He goes, who?
That's a flex.
I go, Derek Price. And he goes, Let me explain something to you, son. Laser pointer. That's Barry Sanders. That's Herman Moore. That's Johnny Morton. That's Brett Perryman. That's Corey Schlesinger. And I still don't even know your name. That's why I don't get the ball. Any more questions? And I was like, we're good. Dick. But again, to Barry Sanders' credit, 3 plays later, I block successfully, which doesn't happen all the time, but it happened to be 3 plays later. And coach goes, good job, Barry. And he goes, that was because of Price's block. And just flexed back into the coach. And I was like, now the coach hates me even more, but like for that one moment in my hot glory time, like it was going all right. Barry, and I know this is an Iowa show, it's not a Barry show, but like you're talking about like the GOAT, like this dude drove, I don't want to call it like a Toyota Corolla, but like he couldn't have cared less. I'll tell you a funny story. You want to hear a funny Barry story? Here we go. So we get paid in the NFL back then, I can't speak to today. Every Tuesday, they would come around and give you your week check, your game check. So if you got paid $160,000, 16 weeks, you get a $10,000 check every week, right? Every Tuesday, until you got cut. And then wherever you got cut, that was the end of your money train. So every time I got a check, I was like, I can eat. This is amazing. Woo! You know, like big deal. Like I'd run to the bank, cash it. And I'm rich. I have $10,000. Anyway, Barry is nearby because I'm the worst tight end and he's the best running back. So we are next to each other in the locker lineup. And I noticed that he opens an envelope once and it's for like 280,000, something like that at the time, of which I was like, I could retire on that amount of money. And then he throws it up in the top of his locker. Now, dude, mind you, Barry's like this tall. Okay. So I'm standing up in my locker and I look over at him And I'm like, that dude's got like 5 envelopes up there. And I go, hey man, I think you got like 5 game checks up there that you might want to like take to the bank or whatever you want to do with it. And he was like, oh, dude, I totally forgot about that. Good looking out, man. Yeah, I'll take care of that. Thank you. And I'm like, I play football, but I did do a lot of statistics in college, and I'm pretty sure that that's like $1.49 million that is sitting in that man's locker by a cup of Gatorade that he put up there 6 months ago and some ripped off finger tape. Like, that's who he was. He didn't care.
Yeah.
He didn't care. And when it came to the end, he was like, either bring in players that are going to let us win this game, or I'm not interested. And they're like, but your rushing records and you're going to break the all-time. He's like, dude, I don't care about that. And they're like, we're going to call your bluff. And he's like, hold my beer. He's like, I'll see you at home. I'm just not doing it. And for Detroit was like, we're not going to release him because we need him to maintain a Detroit Lions jersey for the totality of his career. And when they think Barry Sanders, they think Detroit and da. So we're just going to keep paying him. And as such, you've probably seen the Run Barry Run show on Netflix. If you haven't, like, Barry for the first time kind of explains all that. And if you look like super, super close, you can see like my feet every now and then. How do I know they're mine? Because I wore white cleats. So anybody that's not on the screen, you can't see the numbers, white cleats, it was clearly mine. Can you guys still have all of our old Iowa football videos on VHS tape? I've never opened them. I need to go get them converted.
Yeah.
Like, I think we got that like our senior year. Did you guys get that too?
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that piece. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it was the Sun Bowl year. If you were a senior, and you already I think that the Booster Club got us like the series of that year's game tapes on VHS. Like,
Really?
yeah, I still have them in some I never watched them. I don't even have VCR. I don't know how to watch them. You might hold it up to the light there, and I don't even know what to do with it.
Send them to me. I'll get them converted. Yeah.
Yeah, you do something with them.
Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, no, we didn't get that. No.
Hurley's like a historian. He's got all the old games documented. He's like, we did the first couple podcasts, and he was kind of like, he was correcting me on dates, and I was like, oh man, you were like an encyclopedia of this stuff. So if you need any information, he's got it. He'll pull it right out for you.
Right on. Yeah, Brian, I will, dude. I'll send you all those videos. If you want to copy and have them. It was the 95 season. Yeah. So it's every game of the 95 season.
Nice.
I've never opened them, so if VCRs still work, it'll still work.
Yep.
I don't know how to watch it.
Hey,
so what's up,
Nick? Nick, didn't you have a Chuck story? NFL Chuck story?
I've got a couple great stories. Yeah. So you're talking about Derek Thomas. I was at the Chiefs a couple times. And so I was walking out to my car one day, and the managers back then, like the big player guys, would like tip the managers really well to kind of, take care of him and do stuff. And so they'd take his car and get it washed. And so kid's like, hey, come here, want to see something? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I walk over, and he's like, check this out. It was like a check for $5 million as like a signing bonus, and then another one for like $500,000. I was just thrown in the back seat of his car, like with some shoes, and I was like, yeah, oh my god, that's more money than I've ever dreamed of. It's just like
I didn't even know it existed in reality.
Into the street. The other funny story was there was a guy named Kevin Lockett, I think was his name, who's a receiver from Kansas State. And so we could go up to the offices and grab your check. Same in Kansas City as well. And so I was like, oh, Kevin, I was rolling up there, and Kevin's like, do you want to grab mine? So I grabbed his check, and like, he was a second round pick or, higher pick. So he made some decent money too. And so I had his check in my hand and my check in the other, and I go to get on the elevator, and someone like ran into me, and I drop it, and it goes literally like right down the slot between the door in the elevator. And I just was like, oh God, I just lost, $400,000-$300,000 just down this elevator shaft.
Oh my gosh.
They could cut the check again, but I was just like, oh man. So I went downstairs and was like, well, I guess I don't have your money, but
it's gone. Yeah, you lost it all. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
sorry, you just lost $300,000.
yeah, like sorry, bro. I messed that up for you. So.
Dude, did it ever used to trip you out, Nick? Like when you come back to training camp and these guys that make a ton of money show up and they're running for like the weekly per diem check at camp. And you're like, why are you standing in line to get like a $500 check? And they're like, because I'm broke. I'm like, how are you broke? And then, dude, I won't name anybody, but we had this dude as a DB on our team that we rolled into training camp, and he has a remote control car that has real diamond spinners on the hubcaps. And guess what? When the $500 weekly like per diem checks before the season started were coming out, he was like first in line.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, you're a starter. He's like, I got no money. I spent all my money. I don't know when I'm gonna die. And I'm like, you spent all your money on gold, putting gold rims and diamonds on your hubcaps on your little remote control car. Like,
Oh, wow.
like
Yeah,
you can just
that was
find
crazy.
ways
Yeah,
to
or like,
spend money.
oh, my kid has, like diamond earrings or like these bracelets, and some of that like jewelry and that stuff. And I guess even back then the numbers were decent size, or nothing like now. So I can't even imagine now, like some of these guys pulling in like 40-50 million dollars a year, right? It's like, that's just crazy money.
Dude, even the college dudes, man. Like you look at this NIL money, I'm like, time out. Like I don't even know how do you guys feel about NIL money? Like I'm stuck in old school. I'm like, there's no reason that a kid. Now listen, okay, I get it, right? Open society, capitalism. If they're using your name to make money, you should make it. I get yes. And you should never be controlled on how much money you make. Yes, I agree. Do you know what happens when you give a 17-year-old kid $3 million? Let me tell you what happens when you give a 17-year-old kid $3 million. And then you say, and these 100,000 people are going to clap for you. And where you can't even spend that money because everywhere you go, everything's paid for.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, if you're in the NFL, you can't pay. Like, I go golfing. They're like, oh, Mr. Price, it's on us today. I'm like, but I can actually afford it. The day I was out of the NFL, they're like, that's $300. You're like, well, I was free all last year. Like, you go to dinner and they're like, your card's no good here. I'm like, well, thank you very much. You don't play anymore? They're like, you're going to have to put a deposit down next time you come in.
Right.
So crazy, right? It's just different.
I think with the NIL, I think one of the solutions I thought would have been interesting was to put like money in like a trust or whatever, to say like for the next 10 years, you or your family can come back and go to school, right? You can be like, hey, my brother, my sister, my cousin, like you can send them to school. You want to go to grad school, like go try to play in the NFL. It doesn't work, and then come back, do that. I think, yeah, it was really kind of went to one side, that I think us not being able to have jobs and some of those things was a little onerous, like you said, kind of, we get $300 and like, we can't get a free sandwich or whatever.
Yeah, because we used to get in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Remember what was that? What was that Subway shop that was on the Ped Mall? A girl, Kristen, her family ran it, but she used to hook us up all the time. She's like, I know you guys are broke. And I'll be like, super broke. So like, here's some day old bread. I'll cut a couple of slices of meat for you guys. We're like, I'll take it. Like, let's go. I will take it.
I don't remember that one. That place. What was that?
I do. Yeah, we used to go a lot. Yeah, I
All the
can't
time,
remember
man.
the name of it, but yeah, we go all the time for sure.
Yeah.
It was interesting. By the time like my youngest brother got to Iowa, like I think he was like well connected, because it'd been like all the people I knew, and then Robert came in, he knew a bunch of people, and then John like kind of he reaped the benefits of all those like
all of it.
Really generous people that were like, oh yeah, come hang out and have fun with this kind of thing. So
yeah, he already knew that there was a cellar at Vito's, and you could go down there with the owner and hang out. And he knew the sports column and the Lark and all the underground dinners at the Lark. Yeah, man. Like when Bobby Diaco's family would roll into town, we go to the Lark. It was like the greatest meals and food I ever had. Like, it was so fun. I guess the whole experience, I wouldn't trade anything. We had such a good time at Iowa, other than walking around and falling on my ass because I'm not an ice walker, and when concrete stairs get ice on them, like people from the desert just fall openly and hurt all the time. But good times. It was also dope as the summers, living there in the summer. Like, what we do, just wake up, lift weights, and then go by that like community pool, hang out there, and then maybe go out to the quarry and then figure out what we're going to eat for dinner and crank the music until it was crazy. It's such good times, man. Those summers were crazy.
We'd watch Cable Guy like 32 times, like, because we didn't have cable. We just like watched the same movie on loop. You're like, I've seen Cable. There are people like, how do you know the lines to Cable Guy? I was like, I think I saw it 60 sometimes one summer.
That's all we had, and between that and putting Aaron Granquist's cereal bowls in his room so he could clean them, that was about. Hey, Aaron, I don't mind you eating cereal all day, but you have to at least wash your bowl out.
I guess I'll introduce it so I don't get blindsided by it. So, what's your best Nick Gallery head joke?
Well, it's funny you ask, Nick.
I was gonna say it's coming, so I'm not gonna avoid it. So I might as well just hit it head on.
All right, this is a world-class story. So I'm gonna take you back in time for this one. You have to set and setting. I think Brian was there, Chris, Knipper, like the whole crew, like whoever was living with us. What was the name of that housing projects that we lived at? I can't remember what it was.
Pheasant Ridge.
Pheasant Ridge, yeah. So it's just the whole crew at Pheasant Ridge, right? And for whatever reason, I think we were watching like, it was like a bye week or something, and we were watching a football game. I remember being like middle of the day or whatever, something. And Nick, I can't tell if I'm making up this story because I'm really old or it actually happened, but in my mind it happened. And anyway, while we're watching this, or this could even have been in my house, like when everybody was like, came to Tempe and we all did spring break or whatever at my house. But either way, anyway, we're all together. And this Jack in the Box commercial comes on, right? And the Jack in the Box dude has a big ass Jack in the Box head, and he's talking to this lady, and they're sitting in the bleachers. And he's like, yeah, 2 Jack McMuffins for 99 cents. And she's like, what a great deal, blah, 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 blah. And he's like cheering, and it's a little Jack in the Box. And then they show the field, and they show a huddle. And it's like all these kids, and one of them's head is this big. And he's like, that's my kid. Like, dude, the whole room was like, Nick! That's Nick Gallery in a commercial. For those of you guys who don't know, the only thing bigger than Nick's head is his arms. He has the largest arms that a punter in the history of punting has ever had. He's a bodybuilder made punter. It makes no sense. He's like, if you go to Sports Authority and you see the mannequin of the athlete that's the football player, like that's a Nick Gallery silhouette. So if you're like, I wonder how big these guys are. That's a little bit. That's like, Brian, wouldn't you say that's like if Nick was standing there like in some chonies, like that's his body, right? That's
true.
That's totally true. So all jealousy. So because Nick looks like a Greek god all ripped up and jacked, we can make fun of him, right? If he looked like somebody else, we wouldn't make fun of him. But anyway, so yeah, man, that was funny. And then the movie So I Married an Axe Murderer came out. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they went, and the Scottish dad goes on this whole rampage on his kid who keeps putting his head in front of the TV. And he's like, Heed, move now. And he keeps trying to get the kid to move. And he's like, it's like an orange on a toothpick. It's like Sputnik. It's like, he just goes off with these like 20 analogies. And we're just like Sputnik,
right,
orange on a toothpick, need to move now. And like for like my whole year, like Slutsker, Bobby, like Jefferson Bates, Ryan Driscoll, God rest his soul, like everybody was like, Heed. And of course, Nick was like,
his nickname, Heed. Yeah.
This is awesome. My name is Heed.
My freshman year, my helmet, I had like a 6-bar. So it was like one of those like defensive linemen that came down. There was like 6 bars across. So my second year, I was like, wait, I got to get rid of this thing.
That's right.
And then like there was literally like on the stadium, there was like a helmet that was kind of like, or on the stadium or the complex, there was like a helmet that was kind of, sawed in half and put it on there. And I remember Derek being like, it was like, man, they took your helmet, cut it in half, and stuck it up there. And I was just like,
Nick, like, how pissed are you that your helmet is above our locker room tunnel? Like, you need to get that back.
Yeah.
Dude, I hate you so much that like I don't even anymore hate you.
You used to have the golf carts that they made the big helmets over too, and I saw one of those, and I was just like,
it just never stopped.
I was like,
And
can
it's
I
like-
stop somehow, please? I need some respite from this.
I think the other one was like, hey, I think Herky took your helmet.
Yeah. Nick, go get your helmet back from Herky. I can't believe he stole it. We'll beat his ass after the game. Herky, get over here and give Nick his helmet back. Scared those little cheerleader people. Hey,
Yeah.
did I remember, like, I can't remember where we were, Nick. I think that we're like in the, and this might be like my 52-year-old imagination, but I feel like you kicked a ball out of the stadium once from like the end zone just towards the end zone, like basically from the grass in the end zone, and you kicked it out of the stadium. And I was like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody kick a ball out of the stadium.
Yes, we used to goof around and try to kick it out of that.
I was
end
like,
zone.
I'm fairly
It wasn't
certain
up and down.
that this man just kicked the ball out of a stadium. Like, that's a whole different kind of thing, because everybody thinks they can kick, and like, because everybody can kick a soccer ball, but hitting a football, like how Brian, how you guys hit it off of, you know, field goals or punts or whatever, is just a whole different. It makes a different sound when you guys hit a ball versus like when a regular dude hits a ball. Like, it's like ping, ping, ping. It's like ping. It's like a mortar. You're like, oh, there's a missile in orbit right now.
I know we tried to kick it over the bubble. I don't know if we were successful or not. You did, Nick, or not?
Yeah, but I don't know. We
That was
got close,
tough.
maybe once.
Couple
That
times.
was pretty tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
bubble
out of the
is-
stadium, we were laughing that like someone's probably walking, you know,
yeah,
the
just
class, and all of a sudden just like a rocket comes down and like almost hits them on the sidewalk. It was like, what?
rains down on
Yeah.
them, man. That's insane. So much fun, dude. We had a good time back then. Like, were you guys in Alamo Bowl? Was that your freshman year? Did you guys make that trip, Alamo Bowl?
Yep. As a freshman.
Yeah, I went twice. Yeah.
First one, and then we went back as seniors right after
You guys went back after the Sun Bowl, right? Back to Alamo
Yeah.
Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember.
I was a freshman. I was like, I was sitting in my room.
Yeah.
Look, I'm 18. I'm like, this is awesome. That's
I
fun,
was like, I
guys.
don't know what to do. But do you remember when we went to the Sun Bowl, how we got there early because the storm was coming into Iowa? And there's only so many days that the NCAA would allow them to coach us and manage us.
Mm.
So it was like, we got there on Thursday and they were like, we'll see you Sunday. And we were like,
That's right. Oh, yeah.
what does that mean? We'll see you Sunday. They're like, we can't do anything with you guys until Sunday because we're only allowed to have a certain amount of hours and practices. And we had to get out of Iowa or we wouldn't have been able to get out because there was a storm.
Forgot about that.
And I remember like I looked at Slutzker and I was like, are we like in Mexico and we can do whatever we want for like 3 days? He's like, that's what I heard. Remember, Scott got in trouble, so they didn't let him start that game. So I made fun of him. I was like, you're just pissed because you're not a starter.
I think one of those nights where everybody came back and like we all got in the hot tub, and it was really more just like there was 25 dudes in the hot tub, and the people at the hotel freaked out and like called Coach Fry directly, right? So he shows up, Trooper Stewart shows up and was like, all right, you guys got to go to bed and wherever else. So Knipper and whoever else, there's like 2 or 3 of us were like, well, no one's going to be in the hot tub anymore. So we went back. I was like, next morning at breakfast, he was not impressed. I was like, oh.
That sounds like a Knipper story. Either you guys still keep up with Chris? What's he up to?
Lives in Columbus, I think, or no, Cincinnati. I'm guessing, like a Carpenter, I guess. I haven't talked to him for a while. Get a random text from him every once in a while.
Oh, right on, man. We had a weird little eclectic crew back then. It was good times, man.
Decor.
Yeah, Decor with Hargrave. That was fun. Greg Allen beating everybody up every time we went over to his house. Like, hey, Greg, like, don't punch me. Like, we're super good friends. He just give you that. If he's watching this and his kids ever listen to this video, yeah, your dad's mean. Your dad used to beat everybody up. Like, Mark Russell, coolest dude ever. Greg Allen, you were a mean human being. You used to try to beat us up all the time. The end. Like Mike Wells. You remember Mike Wells?
Oh yeah, right.
So I played with Wells at Detroit, and he was.
Oh, that's right.
Just as awesome there too. Wells is awesome. He was a good dude. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, he was a senior, I think, when we were freshmen, or when I was a freshman, I came in.
Yeah. It's funny what you remember. I vividly remember him getting an interception. I don't remember who we were playing as a home game, and he at Iowa, and he was running it back, and he got tackled on like the 2 by like the quarterback.
No, no.
And we're like, this was like your one opportunity. You're like 300 pounds of just blonde anger, and this quarterback tackled you like 3 yards from the goal. So that's good
I
times.
remember you had tinted windows on your truck, and I think you get pulled over multiple
All the
times.
time.
So
Oh,
yeah, how did
dude.
that all work out?
All the time. Well, like you can't survive in Arizona. Like today, what was it? Like if you guys look up weather today, it's probably 114 here today. That's just Friday. So like if you don't have tint on your windows, it's like the Raiders of the Lost Ark when the sun hits your windshield. Like it will burn a hole through your eye sockets. Like you have to have tint. Like just how it goes down. But then when we rolled to Iowa, they're like, why are your windows dark? And I was like, to block the sun. And they were like, we don't have sun here. Like there's no sun for the next 6 months. Like that sun goes away in October and it might come back at the end of April. And you're like, noted. So yeah, man, I got pulled over a lot. And I got pulled over again because of my buddy Scott Slutzker, who, when we were driving home, decided to yell something to the police that were in their car as we passed by. So they just arbitrarily pulled me over, and I got like 4 tickets. Tint, speeding, brakes, seatbelt, didn't have my ID with me. And Scott's laughing as they're writing me the tickets. I remember being like, this is super surreal. This cop is writing me tickets, and you're clowning me that I'm getting tickets because you yelled at this cop. And he's like, isn't that funny? I'm like, no, not funny at all. I don't need money. Like, I was telling the cop, I was like, guys go to jail. Like, I don't have any money. I play football here. Like, we don't have money. Like, how much are these tickets?
Yeah.
But I was able to get them all dismissed because the beauty of Iowa is amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You didn't ever change your tint. I know you're stuck with it. You're like, I'm not giving up this tint. I got to go back to Arizona at some point.
I paid $35 for this, man. But yeah, dude, that was another crazy thing was I remember like multiple occasions making the drive back to Phoenix. I remember like finishing finals and being like, for spring break or, whatever, and be like, all right, cool, I'm going home. Like 24 hours of nonstop. Like that's 24 hours, not like with a stop and sleeping here. That's if I get in my car at noon and I start driving, I hit like Kansas City and I hit like Amarillo and then I hit Tucumcari tonight. And then I come into Northern Arizona and then make it to my house. And I remember being so delirious. I was driving with Shane. Remember Shane Day?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Kent Call's buddy.
Yeah.
So I was with Shane. Did you guys go to Lake Okoboji that one time we went down there we stayed at like Shane's house down there during a spring break?
I didn't.
I don't remember. I think it was before.
I don't think I went with that group, but that was a funny story that I can tell after you finish yours.
Yeah. So anyway, on this drive back, we were so hallucinating because we've been awake like all day, crammed, of course, for finals, finished finals, and then got in the car and started driving. Like no gap, right? And I remember like we got to like Payson, which is like an hour away from my house. So like 23 hours into this, and we're driving, and I look at like a billboard, and I was like, that's really cool that they're making like live action billboards. Like, I wonder how they did that. Like, it's like a movie. Like I was watching the people on the billboard interact like, hey, buy this medication today. And I was like, wow, that's just really cool that they do that now. And then dawned on me, I was like, well, they don't do that. That's not a thing. I was like, we need to pull over. Because I am at like a whole nother level of fatigue. But yeah, Corby and I used to make that trip all the time. Yeah. Corby Smith and me used to make it all the time.
Did you know him before Iowa?
I didn't. So Corby grew up Southern Cal with his dad. Larry Smith was the head coach at USC.
Yep.
And then he took over Tucson. He was the head coach at University of Arizona. And that's where Corby kind of grew up. I think he went to Amphitheater High School. So we never really crossed paths. Tucson and Phoenix don't really mix. We let Tucson people just say, stay down there. It's the ghetto. Do your thing. We're up here. And no, not until I walked into when Corby, I don't remember when he got there. I think I came in spring and I think he came in summer, if I remember right.
Like that.
And he was the quarterback. They're like, oh, you got a quarterback from Tucson. And I was like, I gotta go meet this dude. I remember meeting him in the weight room, and this was before we had the new weight room. This is an old weight room. And yeah. This is when we had, remember we had the 400-pound bench club posters?
Yep.
Remember that?
Oh yeah, right. Forgot about that.
Dude, I still have my senior football poster where we're all in tuxedos. It's like dressed to impress or something. We're all like in tuxedos.
We'll have to dig that one up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll find a video.
You were like in beach
photos
gear.
and put it on the video here.
Yeah, we're all like,
Ours was like in beach gear, wasn't it? We had like a lifeguard
It was like a
stand, and like Coach
Baywatch.
Fry was on top of it. We were all like in shorts and like tank
It's
tops.
photoshopped in, yeah.
Bobby
I'll
D
pick those
wanted
up.
to do tuxedos. He wanted it to be all like tuxedos. So we literally wore full-blown tuxedos and stood on the field like this. It looked like 50 security guards, like 50 Secret Service guys.
I'll pull that
Did
up.
you know anybody else in the junior college transfers that came in that year with you?
So I knew Jason. You remember Jason played, I want to say he's a free strong safety, maybe even a will linebacker.
Jason
Henlon. Yeah. So I knew him. I knew who he was, and B-Mac. So,
oh yeah.
So B-Mac and Jason and myself all came in at the same time. From basically, they came in from Los Angeles. So they were, I want to say they're like Long Beach, Compton area, and I came from Phoenix. So remember, there was no internet, so it was like newspaper articles, and like I remember seeing, their names pop up in the 15th page of the most random newspaper articles about junior college football stats.
And magazines too, right? Wasn't there like recruiting magazines that would be like,
Yeah, dude.
Midwest best prospects, that kind of stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah, I remember when those would come out. Like the predictions and the rankings and the magazines, the NCAA, and you go look at Big Ten and you say, what's Iowa going to do this year? And they would talk about Tim Dwight and Slutsker and Diaco, and then like the last line would be like, and Scott's got a backup named Derek. Like that was like my whole thing. Funny enough, dude. So we finally, I'm in the NFL, whatever, and I think it's Madden 96, Hurley. You like this? And I'm like, cool, like I'm on a video game, or I should be. And so I obviously buy it. I'm back home with my buddies. And we pull it up, and like, sure enough, like I'm on the roster. I'm like, whew, like, which is I'll tell you the whole cut day story, which is a whole interesting story too. And then so I put myself in the starting lineup, and just, like if you ever go play that game, never put me in, because like you throw the ball to me and the ball like bounces off the face and on the ground. Like the stats, like I'm like out of 100, it's like a 31 speed and an 18. Like my guy like he's the only guy I'm mad that like falls down. Just there's nobody even around me, just falls, right? He just falls over. It's terrible. So my character runs out on the field, and it's this big old black dude, and he's like, Derek Price, and I was like, I never get it. It's always different every day. I was like, it is what it is. At least my name's up here. So, but dude, check this out. Nick, you'll appreciate this. So remember when you're getting close to cuts at a camp in the NFL, and you're staying at the hotel, and you can hear them knocking on the doors in the hotels, and you're like, please don't knock on my door. Please don't knock on my door. Please don't knock on my door. Well, this is for all my Iowa fans. My Iowa State receiver, which I will not name to out him, was my roommate at camp. Iowa State wide receiver at Detroit with me. They basically come to me one day and go, where is so-and-so? And I was like, well, I have no idea. And they're like, did he just disappear? The dude just bailed at like the day before the last cuts. And they were like, that's a bummer, because we weren't going to cut him. And I saw him like a couple years later in the Arena League. He did like 2 or 3 years there, and then that was it. But
you just left without even getting official.
I know, right? But dude, so on the last day of cuts, Nick, I was like, hey man, I'm too nervous for this. So if you're going to cut me, you're going to have to work for it. So I got up at like 5 a.m. before they came knocking the rounds or put up the roster or whatever the hell they were going to do. And I just got in my car and bounced. And I was like, you're going to have to find me. And I spent the day at Detroit in the mall, just hanging out in the mall. No cell phone, no beeper. I was like, hey, cut me if you can't find me. and dude, so I go, so I don't hear anything, but like, how would you? We didn't have cell phones back then. So imagine, I don't know if I'm cut or not cut. I don't know what my situation is. But final cuts was like Tuesday, and now it's Wednesday morning. And I park in the parking lot, and I'm like, security let me in. And I walk down to the locker room, down the ramp, the backside. This is where we're playing at like at the Palette at Auburn Hills, the Silverdome, which is disgusting. But anyway, so walking down the ramp, and I was like, security let me in the locker room. I'm just gonna act like I belong here. And I look, and like my stuff is still in my locker, like I left it the day before. And people are like getting breakfast. So I get some breakfast, and then people are putting pads on. So I put pads on, and then they go out on the field, and I just kind of like just migrate my way onto the field, and practice happens, and nobody says anything, and practice is over, and I was like, I'm going to leave now. Nobody's talked to me so far. I just like, and I was like, I called my mom. She's like, did you make it? And I was like, I don't know. I think they might have forgot to cut me, but they couldn't find me. You know, who knows? I would love to hear the inside story. Like, dude, we were totally going to cut Price or this defensive tackle, but we couldn't find Price, so we cut the tackle. Price made it or something. Like, who knows, dude? Yeah. There's a will, there's a way, and it worked. So be it.
Or your roommate, your Iowa State roommate. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe him leaving, like, open the door for me. Like, you never know. So, moral of the story, children, you're allowed to fail, but not quit.
I got the early morning knock, and my roommate when I was in Kansas City, and they were like, knock, knock. And I was like, he's like, what's going on? And I was like, I'm getting cut. And he's like, oh, they wouldn't do that this early. And I was like, oh yeah, they would. Oh. I was home by like 9 a.m. I was like, called my parents. I'm like, can you come pick me up? And they're like, where are you? I'm like, in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
The funny thing about camp is like, you know, I've watched some of the Hard Knock stuff, and you can see like guys that play really well, and then they start counting, and they're like, well, okay, there's this guy, this guy, this guy. I'm not going to fit in, and then they just play themselves out of that position, and see the coaches kind of go through that in Hard Knocks. You're like, oh wow, I've seen that before. And then also like the conversations that happened during the stretching, those were some of the funniest things I think I've ever been around, of people just like the random combos about what went on, or like what was going on back home at people's houses. And it was like Comedy Central. It was funny.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you can't beat it, man. Like what goes on in the huddles, in the locker room, practice when you're stretching, like. But you're taking a group of like 50 to 100 dudes that know each other as well as they know anybody on planet Earth, and they're all like alpha go-getters, or they wouldn't be there. So they're cut from the same cloth, and they're all just ribbing and jabbing each other all day. Like how does a 20-year-old alpha male like show affection? He makes fun of some dude's head. You got the biggest head I've ever seen, man. Like your head would get bombed before they would bomb like New York. Like literally, it would show up on target. Nick's like, F you. And you're like, haha. And people are like, that's mean. You're like, no, it means we love each other. Like it's but yeah, man, it's good times, dude. Miss all of it, but so many funny stories and so much fun. And dude, I think it's cool that you guys are doing a podcast like Throwback Central. You know, like I can't wait to listen in on a lot of these episodes and see who else you guys pull in. And we should pull one where you get like the whole T-core together, Nick.
That would be cool.
Get Slutsker, get Verba if you can find Verba. That dude like dropped off the map. I don't know where Ross Verba is at these days. But like pull together all that group.
That sounds great. We laughed that we used to sit by Matt Ide, Mike Hornaday, and Mike Dupre at the training table, and that was like some of the funniest Like we could barely
Dude.
eat because it was so funny. So we thought about those. Yeah,
Bro, Dupes, man. Dupes from Boston.
yeah,
Dupes.
like, dude, what?
And do you remember that dude hooping? Like he'd just be like,
Yeah.
and first dunk behind my head. You're like,
Yeah, he was good.
so that's a whole nother episode, is our intramural basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Illegal. We're like, and the Iowa football team wins intramural basketball again.
Right?
Else is like, this is bullshit. Billy in a sense is like, whoa, 270 pounds, I just dunked on you. And these kids are like, I'm the physics major. I don't know what's happening right now. I'm being surrounded by warlords that are 6'5".
Yeah.
Harold Jasper going over people. Whoa-bam! Like, everybody could dunk back then. That was so fun, man.
Oh, wow.
Times.
I think we did a soccer team too that they like brought me on just as a body, and it was like Tavian and Hurley and those guys, and I was like, this kid comes running at me, and he's like, probably 5'6", and I didn't even look. I just stood up straight, and like he just ricocheted off me, and I was like, I was trying not to hurt the guy, and I literally was like trying to absorb it, but he just like, I launched him like 6 feet, and I was like, oh man, bad idea.
Yeah. But so much fun, man. So much fun. You know what we never did, though? We never broke into the pool and jumped off the high dive. I think we thought about it. And I remember getting in there with somebody.
Is the field house or the?
Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, nobody's here. We should go off the high dive. And we were like, let's go check it out. And we got like halfway up and we were just like, hard pass. Like, that's really high. And came back down. Like, we're like, I'm totally going to jump off it. And I was like, no. You remember Timmy's like, hey man, I made $50. They took some of my lung tissue today to sample it. You can get $50 at the student center if you let them take a piece of your lung tissue. I was like, really? Is that a thing?
Hey, the $50, that's a lot of money.
$50, man.
That was a ton of money.
Like the average.
That's a 6-year rent, right? A 5th year rent. Yeah.
Dude, $50 means you eat for like a week, bro. Like $50 back then was, you were good to go. Do you remember going to Aldi to get our food? Like, hey, I can get 10 cans of tuna for $1. Like, I'm good to go. I get 10 things of ramen, a block of cheese, and 10 cans of tuna. It's like $3. Like, I'm good for the week. Let's go.
Dollar frozen pizzas. Yep.
Yeah, dollar frozen pizzas all day.
Early get like 6 frozen pizzas for like $6. Yeah, like
Yeah.
the whole stack.
There's a week of eating. Yep.
Yeah, that was good times, man.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to pub? You want to talk about your business or any areas or whatever? So
yeah, so I just recently stepped down as being the CEO of a large hospital, and it was just, been there, did it, and it was time to just be something different. And what I realized was I miss the boots on the ground, like helping people kind of achieve their goals, which is what I'd done. Like with all the coaching I've had as an athlete at Iowa, as an athlete in the NFL, becoming a doctor, seeing patients for 20 years and opening businesses and then being a CEO of like really large hospitals, there's just so much leadership and so much coaching that I've done that I basically got to the point where I was sitting in the chair as a CEO of a big hospital, and I was like, I don't really help patients anymore. I help shareholders now. I help stock, I help profits, and I help shareholders. And I was looking at my decisions, and it was like, for me to be successful in this chair, I have to reduce the lunch from $10 to $9, which means the patients that are coming here are going to get a lesser quality, but the shareholders are going to get a higher stock return. And it was like a weird dichotomy. It was like the toothpaste came out of the tube and I couldn't unsee it. So 6 months ago, I decided I'm not doing this anymore. So I just did a walk-off and I went back to my passion. I was just going to go back into practice and like see people or open another gym. I'd open a bunch of CrossFit gyms, and I'm still a jiu-jitsu instructor. Like I still roll jiu-jitsu all the time. It's my number one passion outside of having done all these Ironmans and all this other stuff. But I created a community of like go-getters that really just helps focusing on closing the gap on the 4 pillars of life that matter: faith, family, fitness, and finance. I know that we joke and we have a good time, and these podcasts are all about joke, but I think we can do it when you're in balance, like when everything's working, when your faith is in front of your decisions, and whatever your faith is, regardless. My faith and your faith don't have to be the same. When your family is your foundation, when your fitness is keeping you like what we call like battle ready. I think that everybody should be in a state of physical readiness. Like you never know when you're going to have to push, somebody's car, help somebody across the street, carry somebody out of the woods, save somebody from drowning, pull them out of a burning house, whatever. Be in shape for that. both mentally and physically, and then finance. Like, to say that the world doesn't work off finance is fool's errand. It's silly. So I created a large community of that, and we call it Club Faction. And for anybody listening to that, like, yeah, man, we let you come in for just $7 for 7 days to see if you like it. And I have multiple levels of it, as low as $40 and as high as $100,000 a year, and everywhere in between. But it gives me satiety because I get to actually go back to, like, it's all jokes and fun and this and that on these podcasts. But what gives me spiritual satiety, what moves the needle, is how can I get involved in somebody's life? Maybe if it's just self-study and it's just some video libraries of mine that they're watching, or if it's actually one-on-one where, like, I have some clients that they'll fly me to their house so I can live a couple of days in their shoes and truly understand what's going on. I have a very diverse background, being a doctor, pro athlete, CEO, business entrepreneur. Like, I've walked in a lot of areas of life, and some people would say that creates wisdom. And now I'm old and I have no hair and I have a gray beard. So I'm officially, I just say stuff like that. So yeah, Nick, I appreciate the plug, shameless plug. But yeah, if I can ever, hey, listen, go to clubfaction.com, check it out. If it makes sense to you, cool. I'd love to have you in the community. We just got back from a big shooting trip. I still work with a bunch of SEALs. We went down to Tallahassee, Florida, banging guns. We're going to do it here in Idaho. We're doing a spearfishing mastermind in Costa Rica coming up. Just doing a lot of cool stuff, man. Run around the country, do fun things, work in high levels of group. And ultimately, everything I said at the beginning of I missed the locker room is recreating that locker room. So who's my average avatar here? Usually former athletes, military, CEOs, doctors, lawyers, people that they miss that like-minded mentality of being around groups of people that make sense to them. That's what I do. That's what I create. Matter of fact, you knuckleheads, I'm gonna get you guys in that group. So welcome, you guys. Hey, congratulations, you guys are in the group now. This whole thing was just a ploy to get you on my $40 a month program. I did it.
An upsell. Oh, we fell for the upsell.
I just totally upsold. I made $40 this month. Woo! And for me, it's not about the money anymore. It's about, like, I love to do what I love to do because I love to do it, and I'm blessed to be in a position like to do that, and that's what I do.
Yeah, I heard one of your Instagram posts, or saw one of them when I was doing kind of some research for this, and you were speaking about kind of balance in your life and how if you don't have that piece, then it's gonna, you're gonna be pushed to one side with things and not be able to kind of handle that. And I thought that really resonated for me of like, oh, you're really focused on work or you're focused on these other things and not your family and your health and that. It just kind of that pillar falls down. So that was an interesting piece for me to hear.
There's a lot of ways to explain that, but the easiest, most practical is when people can relate to it. So imagine you have 4 dudes in a boat, and they each have a paddle, 2 on each side. Now let's label each one of those faith, family, fitness, and finance. So you have 4 of them. If you got that dude in the back that's the finance guy, that's just us alphas chasing money and working, and he's just like, what? Just paddling his ass off. And you got your dude in the front left that's like, hey, I'm the spiritual compass, I'm the true north, I'm faith, I'm how we frame decisions. And he's just like, I'm not doing anything. Man, that boat's just spinning. And Nick and Brian, you guys know as many people as I do, like, there's no shortage of money they've made. They could quit today and they will never spend the amount of money that they have. But they have a wife that does not want them anymore, but needs them. They have a faith that's completely non-existent. And remember, I don't care what your faith is. I just think you should have some type of a moral compass on whatever that is. And they've let go of fitness based on the excuse that they're lying to themselves. It's like, oh, dude, I work so much, I can't get to the gym. Bitch, do you have gravity and do you have a floor? Yeah. Okay, I'll give you a workout. Like, we don't need to go to the gym. Do you have a floor where you are, sir? Yes. Is there gravity where you are? Yes. Lay on the floor and stand back up 100 times. What's that going to do? Find out. Find out. Go to your hotel, lay on the floor, stand up 100 times. Do that. You will be sore. The end. Workout over. So, yeah, to your answer, to your point, you can also follow me at official.DerekCPrice on Instagram. That's where I post most of my stuff. And it has one of those little blue checks, so that's how you know it's me. And I pay for it because I'm not popular enough to have been given it.
Not yet.
Not yet. I bought my way into the cool kids club, man. I look all legit. But if one thing, as you guys know, like, I'm just super transparent all the time. And it's just, I find humor in my own shortcomings more than anybody else does. So, but I try. I just keep trying. But love what you guys are doing, man. Love what you guys are doing. And I can't wait to listen to you, man. There's so many fun stories, and it's needed. Dude, that we had such a unique group of interesting human beings. You guys will never run out of I can think of 60 names that we could write down right now.
We'll never run out. Yeah.
You will never run out of and then by that time it's like bringing people back on and like, oh my gosh, like
I like your idea of like bring a couple people together, like you and Slutsker together talking. That would
dude, you get me, Slutsker, and Diaco together, like shit's gonna be squirrel shit diapers, you know, like it's gonna be nutty. It's crazy.
I think we should do that.
Like, can you imagine?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Like you get Todd Romano that was like, I'm in this group, but I'm not really like these guys because they're crazy. Like you can tell, you know, do you guys remember the story of the frozen iguana?
Vaguely.
No.
Okay. All right. Was it Chachi? Was it?
I will save this story for you.
It wasn't mine. I don't think it froze. No, he broke his leg. I don't think it froze.
Yeah, no, you guys had the piranha that like was absurd, like or Grandquist had a piranha, but anyway, dude, this and it was winter break and we got kicked out of the dorms because they had to like paint it or do something like that. So we stayed off campus. So basically like just for like a night or two. And so we put everything in Slutsker's Bronco. Remember that old Bronco he had? Like, I don't know if you guys remember that. Like, he had an old badass Bronco that he hated because it sucked, but now everybody would want it because it's vintage. And dude, we put his iguana in the back. And it was like December in Iowa. Oh, no. And at about 2 a.m, after making a lot of bad choices, we were like, dude, I think your iguana is in the back of your truck. And we were like, oh no. So we run out and grab it. And like, dude, Scott was picking it up by, this thing was like this long. He could pick it up by the tail. The whole thing was frozen. So he's like hitting it on things like bang, like a bat. And then Bobby's like, put it in the sink and run warm water on it. And we were like, again, bad choices. We're like, brilliant. So we put the iguana in the sink at Slater in Bobby Diaco's bedroom and start running warm water while we're over here playing, you know, euchre or whatever we're playing. Total Iowa game too. And I don't even know how long later we hear this thrashing and this thing comes back to life. And it was like Pet Cemetery from then on. It was like an iguana that you could hang out with. And then we froze it and killed it and brought it back to life. And now all it wanted to do is eat you. And so that is the story of Scott's frozen iguana. You've got to ask him about that. And then ask Bobby Diaco about the rabbits that were multiplying and his ability to not want them to do that anymore. Bobby's still a public figure, so we're going to hold on to those stories.
Yeah. All right. That's hilarious. Who else do you want to see on? Who do you want to hear from?
Oh, dude, I think if you can get TD on, like that guy has been around the world in 100 days. Like I'll catch up with Timmy and he's like, yeah, I'm in Haiti building solar panels and feeding homeless people. I'm like, oh, I'm buying a new car today. I feel like an ass now. You're like saving the planet and I'm just being a douche. So Slutsker for sure. Romano, I'd love to hear Knipper. Oh man. Love to see some of the Kent call. Like if you brought Kent and Russell on together, like that house, like Kent, Russell, Corby, Greg Allen. I know these are like kind of upper when you guys first got here, but those guys would all be a trip to get on there. And then like Jasper, Willie Guy, Demo Odoms, like bring on that whole crew, you know, and bring those dudes in. Yeah, man, I think there's so many groups, you know, Lloyd, RT, or Bobby Diaco's like preseason speeches where like he'd get up and, you know, like anyone would come up and talk when we were all like in the team room and he'd get up and do his speech and like he's so emotional, he'd like start crying during his speech and you're just like, he's just on a different maturity level and like he's exactly where he needs to be right now, like coaching men, and that's the best place for him. He's amazing at it.
But you said he's at LSU or where is he?
Yeah, dude, he was at LSU. I just saw him on TV. I still with Chip, so Chip's the head coach at LSU now. I think they're from Notre Dame together, maybe or something like that. But so he's at LSU, and I'm not sure. He's like linebackers, defensive coordinator, secondary. I'm not sure what, but they had LSU just lost to
USC.
Yeah, and it was like there was like a targeting hit at the very end and it advanced USC. gave him a first down, put him in field goal range, and they ended up punching a touchdown anyway. But like Bobby had a couple shots on the TV where I was like, dude, Bobby still looks amazing, and the rest of us are bald, and Bobby still has all this beautiful hair and locks, and I'm jealous all the time. Yeah.
Show this guy's hair. He's like,
Yeah, dude,
Hurley's like a top knot rocking right now.
Yes, sir.
The COVID grow out. Yeah.
Yeah. Right? I did COVID grow out. It just grew out and then fell out. And then I was like, it was great because like I swam the English Channel, I did Alcatraz, did all that kind of stuff, raised a bunch of money for people. But I never had to wear a cap because I'm super hydrodynamic. Like, listen, like Hurley, you jump in and you're swimming miles, you have to wear a cap. Guess what? I'm just more efficient. And the odds of somebody pulling my hair are minimal now. Just saying. Harder to kill, bro. Bald people are just harder to kill.
I'm vulnerable. Yep, that's right.
Oh, I love it.
Well, fellas, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, it's so good to catch up.
Thanks a lot. Good to see you, man. That's awesome. You're great time.
Super good to see you guys. And man, anytime you guys have an opening, bro, just hanging out with you guys makes me have fun. So I appreciate it. Love both you guys, and we'll talk soon.
All right.
You too, man. Take care.
All right.